a semiconductor or a chip. Perhaps the most potent weapon in Taiwan's armory, more potent than the F-16 Vipers and the Patriot. And on this show, we will tell you how sand and rock, SiO2, are converted into polysilicon rocks and then a silicon ingot, how bare silicon wafers are made out of this, and how this is then converted into this chip or IC that's used perhaps in most devices in your house, from a mobile phone to a television set to a refrigerator or the aircraft you fly in. By some accounts, majority of such products come from Taiwan.
Gaurav Sawant in one of the most secretive manufacturing plants in the world, the center of technology which makes Taiwan one of the biggest soft powers in the world. This is Semiconductor Manufacturing Unit of Micronix International at the Hsinchu Science Park, 80 kilometers from Taipei in Taiwan. Taiwan manufactures over 90% of the most advanced varieties of semiconductor chips in the world.
We know this is a high tech, and which requires not only the manpower, the mind, the brain, as well as the infrastructure. So, for example, providing a stable supply of electrical powers, water supply, and everything else. Okay. Other than that, I think the entire supply chain. So, for example, the wafer production, the testing, the assembly. So all the supply chain, that's needs a lot of coherence, cooperation in the industry. So in Taiwan, I think it provides a very provident environment to develop all this.
More than 150,000 are employed at this plant. Just 10 miles from Taiwan Strait, where Chinese warships have their guns pointed towards the small island nation. While on the surface everything is calm, there is real fear here of the dragon's aggression. A feeling of nervousness which is spooking electronic majors all across the world. This has led to several countries, including the US and India, to try and shift manufacturing of semiconductors locally to break China's stranglehold around Taiwan.
You can barely see this microchip, but this powers perhaps your mobile phone. Microchips or semiconductors like these also power missiles in different countries. So whether it's your television set or your refrigerator set or the car in your house, semiconductors, by some accounts, 90% are manufactured here in Taiwan. If tensions with China increase, the global supply chain will be adversely impacted. And that's the reason Taiwan is reaching out to democracies across the world. Unless there is a check on China's authoritarianism and expansionism, then global economy may just be adversely impacted. It's time to act now, or it may just be too late. With cameraman Sachin Chandok in Taipei, Taiwan, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. Any conflict between Taiwan and China, any conflict in this region would mean that the global supply chain of semiconductors will be adversely impacted, and this will have a direct impact on your wallet and your house, whether it's your mobile phone, or your refrigerator, your laptop, your computer, even your automobile. And that is why there is an effort for a resilient supply chain and to diversify, to manufacture these semiconductors in India, for example. When Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, she was hoping to take TSMC, one of the largest manufacturers of these semiconductors, to Arizona in the United States of America. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has often emphasized that India wants to be a chip maker and not a chip taker. And this would be a part of Industrial Revolution 4.0, manufacturing of these semiconductors or super chips in India.
Just as the Indian auto industry was emerging from its worst slowdown ever, there are fears the semiconductor supply crisis could return. these images of the latest and most potent weapons in the arsenals of China and the US have rattled the world these past 2 days, with the industry dreading the prospect of China throttling the supplies of semiconductors from Taiwan. Last year, Taiwan controlled 63% of the world's semiconductor supplies. South Korea, with companies like Samsung, had 18% of the market, while China had a 7% market share. US and other countries had the remaining 15%. Simply put, the world is dangerously dependent on Taiwan for its chip supplies. The great chip shortage of 2021 startled the industry and the world, which rudely woke up to the fact that their most critical high-tech components were at the mercy of foreign nations. This was what tech major IBM said in a white paper in March 2021. You never want to be in a spot where another nation can control a valuable resource that your nation depends on. The US, wary of the global tilt, passed a mega $280 billion CHIPS Act, which received rare bipartisan support in both houses of the Congress. India, which announced its $10 billion semiconductor policy last December, has only taken some baby steps in the area. The country still imports 100% of its chip supplies.
भारत चिप टेकर से चिप मेकर बनना चाहता है। सेमीकंडक्टर्स का उत्पादन बढ़ाने के लिए भारत में तेजी से निवेश बढ़ रहा है। यानी मेक इन इंडिया की शक्ति और डिजिटल इंडिया की ताकत की डबल डोज भारत में इंडस्ट्री 4.0 को नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाने वाली है।
However, most of India's chip imports are from China and not Taiwan. Ministry of Commerce data shows India imported over $8 billion of digitally integrated circuits alone in 2021-22, of which China accounted for over 50% of supplies, a rise of 106% on year. This was followed by Hong Kong at around $1.85 billion. Singapore took third place, supplying chips worth $547 million, while Taiwan came fourth with supplies worth $470 million. Meanwhile, at least 2 international consortiums have expressed interest in investing in the semiconductor industry in India, with Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra aggressively wooing the technology. While India may not be in the fab picture at present, one of the big advantages it enjoys is its strength in chip design. Nearly 20% of the world's design engineers are Indians, and most are employed by foreign companies in India. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.